Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Shop Talk Park Slope. And this time we are speaking with the owner of Earth and Me, which just opened their third location right here in Park Slope. We're speaking with the owner, Kayli Kunkel. Hi, Kayli. Thanks for joining me.
Happy to be here.
Yes, excited to have you. So let's actually just kind of jump right in. And why don't you tell folks what is Earth and Me and what do they offer? The name of it gives people a little bit of a hint, but why don't you tell us more?
Yeah, it's a hint. So Earth and Me is all about us as individuals doing our part for the planet. So Earth and Me sells all environmentally conscious household essentials like skincare, cleaning products. We have some gifts, some fun things too. We also offer a refill station, which is really our bread and butter, which is a bulk setup where you can bring your own containers from home and refill with household essentials like shampoo, hand soap, laundry detergent, all kinds of things. So Earth and Me is basically a shop with a mission to reduce plastic waste, which is a big contributor to big oil and climate change. So we're also really all about our community, which I'm sure we'll get into and talk about in a bit, but that's basically what we're about.
So already I kind of kind of leading into, because you've already kind of alluded to it in terms of like telling us about your business, but what inspired you to actually start this business?
Yeah, so I always grew up with a really strong love for nature and the planet, and sustainability was always something I gravitated towards, but I wasn't working in it. I actually was working as a marketing director for a tech company in 2020 and the years before. And during COVID, with everything going on in 2020, especially in New York City, I was let go from my job and had a big what comes next moment. I definitely didn't want to go back and do what I was doing. I was observing everything going on, from the social justice movements going on to a lot of the community care initiatives that had started in my neighborhood in Queens. And I just made a list of everything that I cared about and I wanted to devote my time to. And the list was, pretty clear once I made the list what I needed to do. So I wanted to do something that really supported, handmade items and locally made and circular economies. It was sustainable. It was, very much about telling the story. And both of my parents owned small businesses when I was young, growing up. So to me, the small business world was always something I was drawn to. So that was how I got started. And I started out by just being a pop-up business. I had all of my inventory in my apartment during COVID, and I was pulling things around to various markets and parking lots and other small businesses just to get the word out and see what people would think about the idea. So we had a sort of humble, stressful COVID beginning, but I wouldn't really have it any other way.
So, and speaking of that, so you launched in 2020, but as I said at the very beginning of this video, you have 3 locations now, like 3 locations in 3 years for a startup business. That's pretty phenomenal. So what do you think, like, basically, what do you think was key in terms of contributing to that growth happening? Just kind of like, what do you think kind of went right for you folks that kind of made it possible for you to expand so quickly?
Yeah, good question. Well, I was really surprised because when we first opened our doors, we had a very small first location, and it was December, it was cold, it was in the middle of COVID, but we had a line out the door most days, and people were people were really excited to shop local, support a new business, support a woman-owned business, and also have this option available. New York City is really behind in terms of sustainable options for consumers. You really have to scour various grocery stores and things like that to find what you need. And we really don't have a lot of places where everything's just right there for you. So it was really, from early on, just the sheer excitement for the idea and the demand for the idea that let us, prove the concept and make the choice to grow pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that, just because it's just again, like you said, it's like you can go around to different stores here and there, and it's like, and you can find some sustainable options here, maybe a few things here and stuff. And certain stores, right, are going to be a little bit better about it than others. So, for example, first things that come to mind, right, are the Park Slope Food Co-op, or, places like Whole Foods or something like that. But, not everybody has access to the food co-op, and Whole Foods is expensive. So
Yeah.
and it's also not a local business. Sorry. I mean, whatever,
Yeah.
respect to the fact that they employ people locally, but they're not a local business, right? So that's
Exactly.
the difference between, supporting, because like in my mind, it's one thing for me to pay a lot of money to somebody who is a, international or national, conglomerate or whatever. And it's another thing for me to take my hard-earned dollars and spend them with somebody who I know the human behind this and everything else, So, and actually though, although actually speaking of affordability, I think that was actually one of the things that was actually important to you in terms of making it actually accessible to various communities.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a whole spectrum of things that are considered sustainable. Some of them are going to be really expensive luxury goods, and some of them are going to be really affordable. Maybe like they're made out of, I don't know, just like more affordable things. But for us, it was really important to me to be towards the start of that spectrum. So our average item costs $20. A lot of our refills, you can get for just a couple dollars, including like at our Queen stores, we have some spices and grains, and those actually are like below market price. Since you're not buying the container, you're just buying what's inside of it.
Right, exactly.
Affordability is really important to me. We, with inflation, it's challenged us. It's challenged a lot of businesses to keep prices low. We actually just went through a period of finding some new vendors that still met the criteria for sustainability and natural and non-toxic, but could also be a lower price point. So we're actually rolling those out now across our stores. Park Slope just got the lower prices. Been great feedback for that. Everyone's working really hard. Money's not going as far these days, so we want to do what we can to help.
Yeah, that's awesome. And actually, and again, like I kind of love how a lot of this stuff is kind of naturally dovetailing into like the next questions and stuff. And so my next question, Rico, was the fact that so I was checking out your website and checking out, the Instagram and everything else. And you offer more than just items for sale. And you actually alluded to this earlier, but clearly community involvement is something that's really important to you. And can you speak more about that in terms of what you try to do with your business in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, a business is really just not about selling products. You are supposed to be a hub in your community for, people to come and gather. And for us, our hub is sustainability. So we do a lot of free educational workshops around all kinds of sustainable topics. We've done a lot of drives where we help people in the community bring things like clothing or sneakers or whatever it might be. And we will actually take that and make sure it gets upcycled, in some cases, actually returning those profits to, some cases, and returning those profits to, nonprofits. So that's just one thing that we do. Every single day we're answering tons of questions about things like, where can I compost, or how can I get involved politically, or, what do you think about this bill that's being suggested about plastic waste? Being educational and supportive of our community is really critical. And we also oftentimes fulfill a role of climate anxiety, like helping people process that all together. Like when we had all the smoke or like the heat, like whenever we've had weather events, people do come to us and want to talk about that and come up with ideas for what they can do. So we like to think of ourselves as a pretty big community hub, and that just continues to grow, as we have more locations.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I especially love the idea of the refill stations, because you said like plastic waste in particular. So much. And then also too, I appreciate the educational aspect when it comes to composting, right? Because I know personally for one of my switches, like, oh, if I'm not so great about like, because I do have like the cool little stasher bags. I'm not always great about like, I'm a little bit lazy when it comes. So, I'm just gonna be honest. So I was like, oh wait, one of the things I could do in terms of replacements is, in addition to clearly like glass is amazing in terms of storing, but that's not really so great in terms of portability. So I switched over to like the biodegradable kind of bags and stuff. And at first I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm doing like such a great thing because they biodegrade. And then you read the instructions that says only in a commercial composting facility. And if you don't put them there, then they can do some icky things in the landfill. And I was just like, oh no.
Thankfully, New York City did roll out some industrial compostable, so that is back on the table. But
yeah, and they're spreading, and they were also expanding. As a matter of fact, actually, I think that what happened is they originally launched that kind of like more community-wide composting initiative in Queens, and it was such a wild success beyond anything that they imagined. They were like, oh, we've got to roll this out elsewhere in the city. And then it's been seamless. So now we're actually getting like proper kind of composting events being rolled out to all buildings. And it's just been like amazing and stuff. But again, it kind of shows like when you do community oriented things and you get people to actually participate, get stuff going. So okay, that was like a little bit of a sidebar. Sorry.
No, it's good stuff. Yeah, our first partnership actually was with the grassroots compost organization that started in Queens when the city shut down the composting budget. So they're called the Story Pug, and they had a little pug dog who would walk around and teach people about compost. But they started this whole initiative, and we were their first fundraiser partner. That we developed like a sustainable tote bag with the little pug on it. We raised a lot of money for them, and they were actually a huge contributor of these bins. So everything's very connected. New York's a much smaller place than it can feel like sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you started off in Queens, which makes sense because you live in Queens, and then you ended up with location number 3 in Park Slope. So how did that happen? I actually know the answer to the question, but people watching don't. So I'm going to let you tell the story.
So Brooklyn and the Park Slope area was, on my radar because I'd had a friend who opened a store called La Nature in the area. And a couple years ago, when the owners first were getting started, they reached out to me because I had Earth in Me then for about a year. And we just kind of started talking about how to open a refill station and how to source products and things like that. We became, friends, and we kept in touch over the years. And then when they decided to get out of the business, they wanted to do some more travel and things like that. They reached out to me, and I was like, would you consider if we just became Earth and Me? So we worked out, how that was going to happen. And we got back in the space, and I'm really happy about it because I love Park Slope. It's a great place. The enthusiasm for refill was already there with La Nature. The education had already been done. That groundwork was laid. So it was really just a matter of providing the service.
Yeah. And in general, so since you've been here, because I think when did you officially open in Park Slope?
Last week in May. So only about almost 2 months now.
Okay. All right. Although by the time I'm able to roll out this building, you will probably have been open for 3 months.
3 months.
But so in terms of business life, like still very new to the area, but so far though, what have you enjoyed about being part of the community?
Yeah, I mean, just getting to know the neighbors, the other business owners. I mean, Fifth Ave has such a great business owner community. Mm-hmm. I love part of the Fifth Ave group that contains all the business owners. We're always sharing, ideas and things like that. I've had business owners personally come over and help me with different things and just say hi and be a friendly face. That's so important to me to be part of that community. And there's just a lot of enthusiasm for refills, for sustainability, and it's just a great place to be. You can tell people are there for the long haul and they want to make a good impact on their community.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I just really is that and Park Slope, of course, this is actually one of the things that I actually think is really great about New York City in general that I think people outside the city don't realize about it is that we have so many great communities within communities, like just so many. And Park Slope is a really great example of that, where people, I think, really care about their local businesses and really want to support those local businesses because they are really, and I've said this before in like other interviews. It's in terms of what makes a neighborhood. It's your people, it's your architecture, it's your businesses. Mm-hmm, it's like those are really the 3 key elements. And stuff. And sometimes if you're lucky and you have a really awesome park like Prospect Park, then Or, and then of course, Queens has like a lot of amazing parks that I still need to get out and visit. Like I just visited Socrates Sculpture Park for the first time. And
Ooh, nice.
goodness, the views from that park are just nice. And it's a pretty cool, pretty chill park. So yeah. So yeah, but anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And actually, if you can give us your address and your Instagram before we wrap.
Yes. So we are at 233 Fifth Ave. Our Instagram is earthandme.bk. That's specific to our Brooklyn store. If you want to follow what's going on with Earth and Me, the larger scale, it's earthandme.nyc.
All right, awesome. And you can get to their shop by taking the R train. You just pop by at Union Street and walk on up and boop, it's right there.
Super easy.
Easy breezy. All right. Well, thank you again so much, Kayli, for joining us. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Shop Talk Park Slope. And I will see you next time.